Secretary of Labor Thom Perez is with us. The United States Department of Labor, DOL.gov, is the website. Secretary Perez, welcome back to the program.
Tom, it's great to be with you and with all your listeners. Happy New Year.
Thank you so much, and Happy New Year to you too, sir. So tell us about the numbers that your department released today.
Well, today was Numbers Day, as you correctly point out, and what we saw last month was another very solid month of job growth, over 250,000 jobs. And when you add in some of the adjustments from the two preceding months, actually over 300,000. And when you look at 2014 as a whole, 3 million jobs added, the best year since 1999. We saw the largest decline in the unemployment rate since 1984. In November of 2013, we were somewhere around 7%. Now we're at 5.6%. That's not what some of our pundits predicted, and the primary reason for the remarkable decline in the unemployment rate is that more unemployed people got jobs, and the majority of those who got jobs were long-term unemployed. So this is all good news, and the growth was very broad-based last year. Construction did well, manufacturing did well. The average person on an assembly line is working 42 hours a week. The auto industry is back. I was with the president Wednesday in Detroit. Gallon of gas was $3.33 a year ago. When I was driving to the event with the president, I saw a gas station. It was $1.67.
Wow!
In Detroit, my eyes popped, and so we've got a tailwind here. But at the same time, there's undeniable unfinished business because there's still too many people on the sidelines who want to get back in the job market, and there are way too many people who haven't had a raise in years or a meaningful raise because wages just haven't kept pace with the increases we've seen in productivity. And so Americans deserve a raise. And I wake up every day asking myself the question, and I know the president does the same, what can we do to help workers get a meaningful raise? What can we do every day to build pipelines to the middle class, to build ladders of opportunity? The president today announced, I think, a very bold and important initiative to make community college accessible, free of charge to low-income people who are willing to work hard and upskill. Those are the types of things. The best way to increase real wages over time in terms of the long term, one of the best ways is to make sure people have the education to thrive and succeed. That's how my parents always taught me education's the great equalizer. And there's an undeniable education dividend. The more education you have, the better the chances there are of you punching that ticket to the middle class. And you don't need a 4-year degree to punch your ticket to the middle class. There are really good pathways. And employers tell me all the time, I want to grow my business. I'm bullish about the future of my company here in America. And what I want is to make sure we have that skilled workforce to compete. And that's what the president's talking about today. So we're going to keep fighting to increase the minimum wage. We're going to fight to expand the construction and the construction infrastructure, but also our human capital infrastructure. We're going to invest in that as well.
I'm old enough to remember what life was like in the United States before Reaganomics, before 1980. And as Elizabeth Warren pointed out day before yesterday, up until 1980, throughout the era from the 30s until Reaganomics, the 90%, the bottom 90% got 70% of all the new income that came in pretty much over each one of those 5 decades. And then it just froze when Ronald Reagan declared war on working people, starting with firing Patco and then throughout his administration. And we've been in this and Reaganomics world for 33 years now. She said that 100% of all income gains have gone to the top 10%. The bottom 90% has been zero. We used to believe in this country that even if you didn't have a college education, if you worked hard, there was an inherent dignity to work, and everybody should be allowed to get into the middle class, even if they're just working at a fast food place. How do we do that? How do we get back to that? How do we roll back this And do you even think it has to do with Reaganomics, or is it just something else? Is it just?
Well, I mean, you look at the data, and historically there was a very, very strong linkage and an appropriate linkage between productivity and wage growth. As our nation became more productive, businesses were more prosperous, and that prosperity was shared with workers. And then you look at productivity increases since the late 70s and roughly 1980, and you see productivity has increased over 90%. And during the same period, real wage growth has increased something like 2 or 3%. And so that basic covenant of if we have tough times, we have shared sacrifice, and when we have good times, we have shared prosperity. That basic covenant withered, and as a result, we're in this situation where today, last year, there were something like 50 record highs on Wall Street, and that's good for America. That's if you have a 401k, that's a good thing. But all too many people, we want these record highs and the record profits to translate into shared prosperity.
Right.
That's the key. We're doing this last year was the best year for job growth since 1999. The difference between where we are now and where we were in 99 is that the rising tide lifted more boats in 99, and we've still got way too many boats that are taken in water, and that is why we're focused at the Department of Labor on what we can do with our regulatory authority, for instance, to raise wages. We're focused on the minimum wage, and we helped states across this country and local governments increase the minimum wage, and it's great that 20 states saw increases. That helped about 7 million people, but you shouldn't have to win the geographic lottery to get a raise. We should be doing it at the federal level. That's why we're fighting like heck for transportation bill and immigration reform. Those will lift wages. Those will create good jobs. And I think today's announcement from the president about investing in education, that's a long-term investment that will always pay rewards.
Yeah.
Because, again, my parents always taught me, and I suspect you're in the same boat, education is the great equalizer, and we need to do this because people, so many workers helped bake this cake of prosperity, but they're not sharing in that prosperity, and that's not who we are as a nation. So many people are wondering if the middle class is out of reach. I say hell no, and that's why we're fighting every day to make sure that there are ladders of opportunity for everybody.
Typically when there's a union in a town or in a community or in a labor market, the union wage sets the floor for all wages. So for every union job that makes a certain amount, there's one non-union job that makes about the same amount. And when Reagan came into office, almost a third of our workforce was unionized. Now it's down in the private sector. It's down to around 8%. So it used to be, about 60% of our workers had the equivalent of a good union wage. Now it's 16%. What can the Department of Labor do, if anything, about that?
Sure. I believe worker voice is a key component to ensuring that we have shared prosperity. There's no doubt about it. If you are a union worker, your median weekly income is $200 more than a non-union worker, and that doesn't include benefits, by the way.
Right.
And we went with the president. I was with him this week in Detroit at the Ford Motor Company. The Ford Motor Company and the challenges they confronted in the Great Recession and the resurgence they've experienced is a great example of labor management partnership. I was at the Ford plant in Louisville a few months back. Back in 2007, they were down to about 700 employees. They had an existential crisis. They didn't know if they were going to survive. And the UAW and the Ford leadership got together and said, we're all in this together. And they came up with a plan that was shared sacrifice leading to shared prosperity. And you fast forward to today, that plan has 4,400 employees, and that doesn't include the supply chain. They're going gangbusters. They manufacture the Ford Escape there. I bought one about a year and a half ago. It's a great car, and what Ford and this partnership highlight is that unions succeed in partnership with business, not at the expense of business. And it's really important. And I meet employers who reject these false choices between taking care of your shareholders or taking care of your workers, but you can't do both. Ford demonstrated that you can take care of your shareholders, you can take care of your workers, and you can take care of your customers by building a really good product. You don't have to have these false choices. And so we do a lot here at the Department of Labor to lift up these stories, and we're going to continue to do that, and we're going to continue to make sure that we do everything in our power so that workers have a voice in the workplace, because that creates win-win situations.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, in fact, I was in Portland, Oregon a few weeks ago. I rented a car, and I got a Ford, which I haven't driven in years. I was astonished. It was such a well-made car. Secretary of Labor Thom Perez, the website dol.gov. And, sir, thank you so much. Secretary Perez, thanks so much for dropping by today.
Pleasure to be with you always.
It's always great talking with you. We'll be right back.